Good afternoon, and welcome to True Crime Mysteries. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome. And for everyone returning, welcome back. Today, we will be discussing 3 people on death row and the crimes that put them there. Let's get into it. Number 1. Martin Gabriel. Gabriel has a bit of a unique case because the state that he committed his crimes in doesn't have the death penalty. The courts determined that because his crimes were committed on federal land, they could use federal law to apply the death penalty. But before we go into his trial, we need to go back to how he ended up in the court system in the first place. On August 7, 1996, 18-year-old Rachel Timmerman had been invited to a card game by a family friend, Wayne Davis, and a classmate, Mikey Gabriel. Wayne and Mikey picked up Timmerman. In the vehicle with them was also Mikey's uncle, Martin Gabriel. On the way to the card game, Martin forced everyone but Rachel out of the vehicle, and he drove off with her. According to Timmerman, he hadn't driven long and pulled over near a field. He then attempted to rape her, and when she fought back, he severely beat her. He raped her 3 times and dumped her out of the vehicle. Rachel was picked up by a passerby and was able to press charges. Gabriel was arrested and charged later that day. In the months following the assault, Rachel tried to get her life back together. She had an 18-month-old daughter, she had started a new job, and things were starting to get back into a routine. Her family expressed that she was never the same after. She had once been a bubbly, trusting girl. Now she was constantly paranoid that she was being followed. Rachel was terrified to testify against Gabriel, but she had the support of her family, and Wayne Davis was also testifying. In the months leading up to the sentencing hearing, Gabriel would threaten her multiple times. She had reoccurring nightmares that he would kill her. She called police to report Gabriel's threats 3 times in order to leave a paper trail. 2 days before the hearing, Rachel's parents noted how happy she seemed in light of the upcoming hearing. On June 3rd, she said she had a date. She said the man wanted to meet her daughter, so she would be bringing her with her, and she told her parents she would be home in a few hours, but she never came back. The following morning, Rachel's father found a letter allegedly written by Rachel, saying she was taking her daughter Shannon on a vacation. This concerned her father because the hearing was so close and she was just about to start her new job. The following day was the hearing, and because Rachel didn't appear in court, the authorities had to drop the charges against Gabriel. After the hearing, the prosecutor in the case also received a letter, allegedly from Rachel, and in the letter she said that Gabriel had refused to have intercourse with her and she had made up the rape allegation because she had been rejected. The prosecutor didn't believe Rachel willingly wrote this letter, if she had written it at all, and believed Rachel was in danger. A 3rd letter was received by Rachel's father saying that she and Shannon were fine and she would call as soon as she could. That call never came, and the letters stopped. On July 5th, 1 month after Rachel had taken her daughter on a date, the body of a young woman was found in Oxford Lake. The body was identified as Rachel Timmerman. Experts estimated she had been in the water for about a month and likely killed on the night she was last seen alive. She had been wrapped in chains, the chains were padlocked to cinder blocks, and she had duct tape over her mouth and eyes. Her autopsy revealed she had water in her lungs, meaning that she had been alive when she was thrown into the lake and died of drowning. Her toddler was not found in the lake, and her body was never recovered, but it is believed Shannon was killed that night as well. Handwriting experts determined that the letters had been written by Rachel, but it was theorized that she had been forced to write them on June 3rd and then mailed by the killer. The primary suspect was obviously Martin Gabriel. He had fled the area before he could be arrested, and when authorities went to Gabriel's property, they found cinder blocks that had the same paint stains as the ones used to weigh Rachel down. They also found keys on the property that opened the padlocks on the chains. Martin's nephew also led police to a camping spot frequented by Gabriel. There, police found bolt cutters, duct tape, a woman's hair clip, and the tops of a baby bottle. In the course of the investigation, police noted several other people who had been involved in the rape case were now missing. Wayne Davis, who had also been set to testify against Gabriel, was missing, and he was last seen 2 days after Gabriel had been released from jail. The man that Rachel was supposed to meet on that date was determined to be John Weeks. He had been the man who had picked up Rachel and Shannon. He had been a friend of Gabriel, and Weeks' girlfriend told police she had caught him talking on the phone with a woman named Rachel. When she had confronted him about it, he had assured her he wasn't cheating, and he was talking to this Rachel girl as a favor for a man named Lance. When police showed her a picture of Gabriel, she confirmed that she had met him, but he had been introduced to her as Lance. Weeks' girlfriend had reported him missing near the end of June. The local authorities passed off the ever-growing investigation onto the FBI, who would have more resources to find Gabriel. The FBI had found Gabriel was using the identity of a mentally disabled man from Kent County named Robert Allen. Although no one had seen Robert for a while, his Social Security checks were still being cashed. The FBI staked out the post office in Sherman, New York, and arrested Gabriel in October 1997. The bodies of Shannon, John Weeks, and Robert Allen were never found. They are presumed to be dead. Wayne Davis' body was discovered in 2002 in Twinwood Lake, a different body of water but located in the same national park that Rachel had been found in. Gabriel was tried in 2002 for the murder of Rachel Timmerman. His trial had been a bit of a circus, with Gabriel at one point firing his counsel and motioning for a mistrial, accusing the judge of sleeping with and impregnating 13 to 14-year-old girls. The jury was quick to come back with a guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to death. He has appealed several times, but still remains on death row in a federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana. Number 2. Lisa M. Montgomery. Lisa Montgomery made international headlines when she was found holding the newborn baby that had been cut out of her mother and had died in a vicious murder. Due to the fact that she had crossed state lines with the baby, she was charged with the death penalty for murder and kidnapping. She had left her victim, Bobby Jo Stinnett, to bleed out on her living room floor. Lisa had allegedly been abused by her parents as a child. She was allegedly sexually abused by her stepfather for many years as a young teen. She said that when her mother found out about the abuse, she threatened to kill her and kicked her out of the house at 14. Lisa was a heavy alcoholic and married at 18. Her first marriage brought her more abuse and 4 children. In 2004, Lisa Montgomery told her second husband, children, and immediate family members that she was pregnant and would be due around Christmas time. Lisa had been known to do this periodically. Her sister stated that she frequently lied about pregnancies and had actually undergone a surgery to get her tubes tied after a traumatic pregnancy in her early 20s. Lisa, now in her mid-30s, had an ultrasound doctored to have her name on it. Her current marriage was her second, and she had no children with her second husband. She never told her husband she couldn't have any more children. Her family believes she told the lies because she liked the attention that came with them. Lisa and her husband Kevin bred rat terriers for a living. Lisa was using a fake name in an online forum for rat terrier enthusiasts called Ratter Chatter. Under the name Darlene Fisher, she posted that she wanted to purchase a puppy. A man in the chat room, Jason Dawson, connected Fisher to a friend of his and fellow rat terrier breeder named Bobby Jo Stinnett. In the online forum, it was well known that Bobby was pregnant and due soon. He had connected Fisher to Stinnett because he knew that one of her dogs had just had a litter of puppies and had actually suggested a particular puppy that had red fur on December 15th. He passed on Bobby Jo's email address and phone number. At 23, Bobby Jo Stinnett had her whole life ahead of her. She was newly married and 8 months pregnant, and ran a successful dog breeding business with her husband. Her and her husband, Jeb Stinnett, were passionate about rat terriers and had actually met Lisa Montgomery and her husband, Kevin, at several dog shows. On the morning of December 16th, Bobby was home alone. She was waiting to meet a woman interested in one of her puppies. She had only communicated with this woman via email, but she felt safe inviting the woman into her home. The woman named Darlene was also pregnant, and they were due around the same time. When there was a knock at the door, Bobby allowed the woman calling herself Darlene into her home. She made her tea, and they briefly chatted for a bit. When Bobby turned around to go to the kitchen, Darlene pulled a neon pink rope from her baggy sweater and wrapped it around her neck. When Bobby passed out and fell to the ground, Lisa Montgomery cut open her abdomen. At some point during the incision, Bobby regained consciousness. She had blood on the bottoms of her feet, so much blood that it had pooled up and over her toes. Lisa moved behind her head, and using the rope, she pulled while Bobby was laying on the ground until Bobby Jo once again lost consciousness. Approximately an hour after the attack, Bobby Jo's mother, Becky Harper, came by the house. She discovered Bobby Jo on the floor, called 911, and told the operator that it looked like her stomach had exploded. First responders tried to revive Bobby Jo, but their efforts were unsuccessful. She had lost too much blood. It was immediately known that the baby was no longer in the house, and it was noted that Bobby Jo's umbilical cord had been cut. An Amber Alert was issued that day to enlist the public's help. Kevin Montgomery detailed what had happened later that day. He had told the court he had heard the Amber Alert that day, but didn't connect that to the baby his wife had come home with. He told the court his wife had told him she'd been out shopping in Topeka on December 16, 2004, when she had gone into labor and delivered the baby at the Birth and Growth Center in Topeka. He said he had been led to believe it was his first child, and he was excited. They spent most of December 17th showing off the baby at a cafe, a bank, his parents' home. They had named the baby Abigail. Police knocked on their door in the evening of December 17th. Police had used computer forensics to track down Lisa Montgomery. Lisa had been researching for weeks on how to perform C-sections, where to cut, how to remove a baby, and cut the umbilical cord. They were also able to match her vehicle to a vehicle seen in the area near the crime scene, and there was little doubt that she had committed the crime. The baby was healthy despite her violent entrance into the world. She was reunited with her father, where she was named Victoria Jo Stinnett. Police did do a DNA check just to validate that the child was with her rightful parent. In her trial, the prosecutors argued that Montgomery's ex-husband knew she was lying about her pregnancy, and she feared he would expose her. Around that time, he had sought custody of 2 of their 4 children, and she was convinced he would use this lie against her in court. Her defense argued she had suffered a miscarriage and had taken the baby in a mental breakdown, but given her level of preparedness, the jury didn't buy this defense. The jury convicted Montgomery on kidnapping, resulting in death, and 4 days they handed down a death sentence. She is still awaiting execution in Fort Worth, Texas, where she is the only woman in the facility awaiting a death penalty. Number 3. Nathan Dunlap. In Aurora, Colorado in 1993, 5 employees were shot at a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. 4 died as a result of their injuries. The perpetrator was 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap. 5 months prior to the shooting, he had been fired at that location for arguing with his manager about his schedule and vowed to get even. Nathan Dunlap was raised in Chicago, Illinois, Memphis, Tennessee, and Michigan before settling in Colorado. He was raised by his biological mother and stepfather. He had never met his biological father, but his stepfather had been his father figure for almost his entire life. His mother had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and also had bipolar disorder. Dunlap himself experienced mental health issues. He had attempted suicide twice in junior high. He was evaluated and showed signs of hypomania, but no follow-up treatments or formal diagnoses were taken. When he was 15, he had committed several robberies and had been incarcerated in a juvenile detention center, but there he experienced several erratic episodes that forced his transfer to a psychiatric hospital. When he was released, he began selling drugs and was arrested 5 more times on misdemeanor offenses. He began working for the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant in 1993, but was fired after having an argument with his manager over scheduled hours. 5 months after his firing, he returned to the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant right before closing time. Around 9 p.m., he ordered a ham and cheese sandwich and played an arcade game. When no one was looking, he hid inside a washroom until the restaurant closed. Around 10:05, he re-emerged with a .5 caliber semi-automatic pistol. He went through the restaurant, starting at the salad bar. He shot and killed 19-year-old Sylvia Crowell. He then killed 19-year-old Ben Grant, who was vacuuming. He then moved on to Colleen O'Connor, who was a 17-year-old student. He shot her execution style. In the kitchen, Bobby Stevens was doing dishes when he was shot in the jaw. Stevens survived by dropping to the ground and playing dead. Dunlap's last victim had been his manager, Marge Kohlberg. He had forced her to open the safe, and once the safe was open, he shot her as well. Kohlberg hadn't initially been fatally wounded, and Dunlap noticed her moving, so he shot her again, this time fatally. When Dunlap ran from the restaurant, Stevens was able to go out the back door of the restaurant and run for help. Dunlap's first victim was still breathing and was rushed to the hospital, but was later declared brain dead. Bobby Stevens was the sole survivor of Dunlap's victims, but suffered extensive damage to his face and had to undergo reconstructive surgery. 12 hours after the attack, Dunlap was arrested at his mother's home with the $1,500 that had been stolen from the restaurant safe. On May 17, 1996, Dunlap was found guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder, as well as a count of attempted murder, robbery, and burglary. Nathan Dunlap was sentenced to death with an execution date set for August 2013. His execution has since been indefinitely postponed, and Nathan Dunlap remains on death row. However, Colorado is looking to pass laws to remove the death penalty, but this may not apply to Dunlap's case since his sentence was passed when the laws allowed the death penalty. I know the topic of death penalty is hotly debated. Let me know what you guys think about it, and if you guys want to include where you're from, and if your country has the death penalty, I think that would be really interesting. Here in Canada, we don't have the death penalty anymore, but for some people, like in serial killer Robert Pickton's case, I have a video on him, I will link it. I think we should have it in certain scenarios. But that is going to be it for today. Thank you all for listening. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you've done all that and you still want to support me and the channel, I've linked a couple donation options in my description box. All earnings generated go back into the channel to upgrade equipment, software, and resources to make the channel and content better. Thank you all for your support. I appreciate it greatly. Bye for now.